Hello. Hi, everybody. I don't see anybody in chat, but I'm sure people will show up eventually. It's good to be back. It's good to be live. I wanted to draw your attention, if I can. There's a way for me to do it. I can't use the pointer. I want to draw your attention to the lovely and adorable image in the upper right hand of my StreamYard thingy, the frame. Isn't that adorable? I don't want to call it fan art because I think fan art is probably one of the cringiest expressions in the world. And it's not like I'm Lady Gaga. But somebody was kind enough to make some AI images and some other illustrations. Hello. Hi, Emrys. And listen, if you're going to do that in the future, don't be shy. Send them to me directly. You don't have to send them through a third party. But I am so touched that you did this for me. And I love the image. I think it's adorable. And it will be my logo going forward. Oh, please tell me that I'm not having connectivity issues. Today, the internet is actually clear in this house, amazingly enough. Thank you, Scarlett. Hello, Love Life. Hi, Nietzsche. Hi, everybody. Okay, so thank you so much to the person who sent it. And maybe if you guys are super nice to me, I will tell you who did it. Because it came from a source that, let me just say that it's a person who I never thought would be doing something so kind for me. So I really appreciate it. I appreciate the thought. Thank you so much. Okay. So I wanted to, hello, everybody in chat. Thank you so much for being here. So I wanted to start off by making a general statement. Isn't it adorable? Isn't it cute? I love it. Yeah, the one in the upper right-hand corner. It's precious. So thank you so much. And I'm going to be cycling some of your other art through and using that art as logo as well. So thank you. I also wanted to draw your attention to the crawl down here. Those are our accounts for Cash App and PayPal. Hello, my darling crocheter. It's good to see you. Please do donate. The channel's not monetized, although I'm on my way. I wanted to send a special shout out. I know, right? Right, hello? Except the problem is I actually spoke to my hairdresser because she wanted to do something like this, that kind of like blue teal color. The problem is that those colors fade very, very quickly, even if you get extensions in those colors. So this kind of burgundy color, it lasts longer. But the blue in particular, blue, green, and any combination thereof, it's very, very tough. They fade like this. And then you have to go and you have to get touch-ups, and it's a drag and it sucks. So I learned that the hard way when I had the blue extensions. They faded in like 2 weeks and they turned to a very pretty shade of sky blue. But if I'm going to get like neon blue, I want it to stay neon blue. So I'm not going to go in that direction. I'm going to stick, I think, with the reds. Okay. I wanted to thank It's Just Jill. Yes, I am thanking, hi Breeze, I am thanking It's Just Jill. I do not watch her content. I made the mistake of watching the Ricada stream the other day because I heard it was absolutely atrocious, and I fast forwarded through it. But my understanding is that she gave her audience an ultimatum. And she said, if you support me, meaning her, then I don't want you here, or something along those lines. Basically, she laid the hammer down, as in hammerhead shark. And she gave her audience an ultimatum. And after she did that, I gained 15 subscribers. So thank you so much, Jill. And don't worry, new subs from It's Just Jill's community. Your secret is safe with me. I am not going to drop a dime on you. I don't do that. But this is why, if you're a content creator, it is always a mistake to tell your audience what they can and cannot do. And if you give them an ultimatum like that, or you speak in absolutes, then that is exactly what's going to happen. So I appreciate the 15 people who came over to the channel, thanks to Jill trying to be a YouTube villain. And welcome to all the Jill subscribers. As long as you behave, we will not have a problem. When you misbehave, if you try to come at me sideways, and if you try to be a raging cunt, or you try to dox, or you try to threaten or spread lies, you're out. Okay, that is just the general rule of the channel. Yeah, we can see it. Hello, we can see who subs. Yeah, YouTube lets us know where the subs are coming from, or not where they're coming from, but the people who sub. So again, your secret is safe with me. So thank you, Jill, for the assist. I appreciate it. Maybe someday you'll learn how YouTube works. Okay. I also wanted to make a statement about my content going forward. I have said my piece about everybody that I had a beef with. And so, well, welcome, Christy. It's good to see you. Thank you. Thank you for coming over. I appreciate it. And I hope that once you get to know me, you'll realize how many lies you were told about me, what a terrible person I am. I promise I'm not. Okay, so I have had beefs with many, many people over the past 2.5 years, okay, including people on Kiwi farms. This is no secret. I've made it abundantly clear. There were a lot of lies that were told about me and a lot of lies that were told about Negz, and they were spread on a number of different platforms, and a lot of content creators ran with those lies. As of yesterday, I have said everything that I'm going to say on this topic. I know that these people have been leaving us alone. These people have not been trying to exploit us in any way or spreading lies about us. I want to thank those creators for taking that approach. It's been a long 2.5 years, certainly much longer for Negz. And so we're very grateful that you're at least being adults and not, you know, trying to do a tit for tat, because that's done. I'm not going to do that anymore. I have decided that this YouTube channel is going to be, it's going to be a platform to talk about shady stuff. But I really do want to talk more about things that matter to me and the things that are important, okay? And beefs with other content creators, that it may be very entertaining, and I may be getting a lot of views whether I'm on Rumble or YouTube or wherever, when I engage in this back and forth with people. But quite frankly, I'm over it. There are too many important things going on in the world. And I would prefer to discuss those because, to be honest with you, I miss working in journalism. I do miss it a lot. I don't miss the office politics. I don't miss the drama. I don't miss the job insecurity. I don't miss any of that. I don't miss the egos or the narcissism of people that I worked with. I don't miss being shrieked at and publicly humiliated and all of that. I don't miss that, but I do miss the actual profession. And I miss discussing topics that are serious, topics that matter. And I've become much more interested in the way that the news is presented. And I've become much more interested in YouTube issues that do not involve me or Negz, but YouTube issues that are affecting families, young viewers, and the world at large. So that is what I'm really going to be talking about. I'm not going to be talking about irrelevant people or aquatic creatures that escape from their tanks and decide that they're going to have a go at me. See, I can't help myself. There I go again. Oh, you're welcome, Beth. I love doing them. I really do. I was going to do a follow-up to my tradwife stream from yesterday, and eventually I will, because I have found some remarkable compilations of women who were tradwives, not as part of a trend, but because they decided that they were going to leave the workplace and they were going to spend years, sometimes decades, raising children, only to find themselves single mothers in middle age, only to see that their husbands left them for a younger woman. I saw one horrendous case where apparently the wife, had been married to this man for well over 20 years. And the man left her for a 19-year-old escort. And these were Mormons, by the way. There's a lot of this in the Mormon community. I mean, not that I'm singling them out. I'm just saying a lot of these former tradwives who are speaking out tend to be Mormon. And the wife found out that she was not on the lease of their condo. She was not on any of the bank accounts. She was not on the titles of the cars. The woman ended up broke, struggling, homeless. And the husband did it out of spite. So that is one of the downsides when you don't look out for your own interests, which eventually turn out to be the interests of the children as well. Because when the husband pulls the plug on the finances, there goes your money, and there goes your sanity, and there goes your dignity, and it's a bad scene. It's a bad scene. I also wanted to, there is a very big. Why do I keep on reading? I'm so used to like chat in Rumble. Okay, yeah, there is a huge Mormon demographic, just like there's a huge Mormon demographic among the people who complain about those reform school type camps that kids are sent to when they misbehave, where they are horribly, horribly mistreated. Oh, thank you, Love Life. I appreciate it. Thank you for the compliment. So that is a whole other story. And I think that a lot of light was shed onto the Mormon element because of 8 passengers. But anyway, so I will be talking about that probably tomorrow, the Tradwives follow-up stream, because Tradwives is something that does interest me. And I wanted to underscore something that I should have underscored yesterday in my stream. The people who are streaming as Tradwives are actresses. I mean, you can call them whatever you want. You can say that, you can say whatever you want. You can describe them any way you want, but I call them actresses because nobody lives like that. And in order to maintain that lifestyle, you have to be extremely wealthy, you know, wearing an evening gown in the kitchen. I mean, it would be hilarious if it wasn't so tragic, right? But they are selling an unrealistic view and an unrealistic example of what it means to be at home with children. And of course, this makes women feel inadequate and men love it. So just saying, I'm just saying that. All right. So today I found a video, and this is the other thing that I want to do on my channel. I want to start exposing content creators outside of this hemisphere of shit that we find ourselves in. People who make actual content, people who have interesting things to say, and content creators that you might not have heard of. I did that yesterday with Hannah Alonso. I hope all of you guys subscribe to her because she is fabulous. She is a wonderful, wonderful commentary channel and a great content creator. And even if you're not interested in all of her content, like I skip her MLM content, I still think that the other stuff that she comments on, which largely focuses on parenting, I think is really, really good. And she's so soothing and so pretty and just a very calm, rational person to listen to. Well, today I am highlighting a channel called Pink Book Lessons. Pink Book Lessons is a content creator who is Black, and her focus, it has to do with the Black community, issues facing the Black community. And I thought that her commentary was so interesting because there are some very, very serious issues that are not given enough attention and not given enough focus. And indeed, there are issues where maybe the media will interview a couple of people, but they don't really do deep dives because the narrative is coming from a sector that is supposed to be marching in lockstep with a certain range of talking points. And when somebody strays out of that sector, just like my YouTube banner, out of step. And in case you're wondering, that YouTube banner is a screenshot, an edited screenshot of the Minor Threat album, Out of Step. You guys know I went to high school with a couple of members of Minor Threat. So I've always loved that album cover, and it's great. And I also use it as my as my Twitter banner. So I'm always on the lookout for people who have things to say that may be counterintuitive if you tend to look at narratives, or if you're siloed on Twitter or on YouTube. And one of the issues that has really not been getting enough attention outside of right-wing circles is the issue of illegal immigration in this country. Now, I have been following Brianna Wu on Twitter, and those of you who have been around a long time know that Brianna Wu was one of the game developers who was targeted in Gamergate. So she's been around for a long time. Well, at one point, Brianna Wu ran for Congress, and she said that running for Congress was one of the greatest educational experiences of her life, because you have to go out, you have to get off social media, and you have to go to door, and you do fundraising, and you do speeches and stuff, and you get to talk to actual voters. And sometimes what actual voters have to say to you is extremely different than what it is that you read all day on Twitter or on YouTube, you watch on YouTube, and you may be surprised by what you learn. And Brianna Wu said that illegal immigration was a huge issue that voters kept on bringing up when she ran for Congress. And I have said on a number of occasions too, that one of the problems with the media being, when I say the media, I mean cable, the networks, newspapers, and so on, being established in large cities in blue states, is that a lot of these journalists do not get out and travel. They don't talk to regular people. I don't see town halls being a thing anymore. Town halls used to be a thing. Nightline used to do excellent town halls. And I know that part of the reason that they don't do town halls is because they're very difficult to plan. Okay. They require a lot of planning and a lot of work to put together. And because you never know when some nut is going to stand up on live TV and say something crazy and get your network in trouble. But the way that anchors on, apart from Fox and One American News and channels like that, the way that journalists and anchors have been dismissing the issue of illegal immigration out of hand, because, again, these are people who make a lot of money. They don't talk to normal people, like regular people. They don't travel around the country too much. And they don't go to depressed pockets of the country. They don't talk to poor people unless they have to. They are not going to, oh, thank you, Love Life. Yeah, I'm a big Def Leppard fan. You know that. They don't talk to people in, what we call the flyover states, all the states between, the East Coast and California, right? I mean, they may do a flyby or drop in Chicago every now and then, but they don't really talk to people. And I've told you guys that two of the most educational experiences I had in life were going to Kentucky and going to some really, really impoverished parts of Kentucky and driving through Maryland, West Virginia, Ohio, and Pennsylvania in order to get to and from Indiana when Negz and I first got together. And I was making that drive 4 times a month. So I had lots of opportunities to go into Waffle Houses, go into gas stations, go to, little restaurants or, coffee places or 7-Elevens or whatever between DC and Indiana. And in every place that I stopped, I would have a conversation with people. And it was very, very, very illuminating, and it was eye-opening, and it changed my worldview. Not that it changed my opinions, it changed my worldview. Well, hello, Vicky White. How are you? Long time no see. Welcome back. Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. I think that she's very brave, and I call her she because why would I be a bitch about it, right? But yeah, she has been very sane throughout this whole thing. She's a very strong opponent of Hamas. She's spoken out very strongly about October 7th and so on, and I'm very happy about that. It's good to see. So it means that you can have a different opinion from your crowd, and she is a progressive Democrat, but that doesn't mean that she marches in lockstep with everything that happens. Now, somebody had asked me if I would do commentary on the Democratic National Convention. I'm going to pass on that. I was hoping that it was going to be an open convention and that there was going to be violence and that there was going to be a lot of deal cutting in smoke filled rooms, and that didn't happen. So I didn't tune in. But I think that the most hilarious takeaway was the forced enthusiasm over the selection of the governor of Minnesota, Walz, as the running mate. My opinion on Walz is that he is Kamala Harris's Sarah Palin. It seems to me that nobody vetted this man because how could anyone running for office, the highest office in the land, pick somebody who is, first of all, very boring, not interesting, from a state that is not a critical swing state, like an Ohio or a Pennsylvania or something. He's from Minnesota, right? But also his views are extremely, extremely radical, whether it comes to the trans issue, the comments that he made about the BLM riots, the questions surrounding his military service. And it seems like they rushed into the decision where, okay, let's say that Shapiro, the governor of Pennsylvania, was too controversial because he's a Jew. I get it. I understand that. And we can say, all right. But there were two other people who were on the short list who were very, very good. Senator Kelly from Arizona, who's a former astronaut, who comes from a state that could be quite important in the upcoming election. His wife, Gabby Giffords, was shot by a lunatic during a campaign event. She used to be a member of Congress. She survived, God only knows how, but they've got a great backstory. And he may not be the most charismatic human on earth, but Walz is a disaster. And then there was the governor of Kentucky who has done a great job. Again, from, I wouldn't call it a swing state, but certainly a state that could matter. He's done a great job as governor. He's young, he's handsome, he's charismatic, but instead she went with this guy from Minnesota. And like I said, there has been so much coming out about him that I think is pretty credible. I mean, he signed his name to legislation. We know all that is true. And the positions that he's taken on issues are so far outside the mainstream that I really have to ask myself, who put his name forward and how did he end up being the selection? It is madness. And watching these Democrats, pretend to be excited, and all the praise heaped on him on Twitter after his name came out, I thought it was hilarious because it is completely insincere. Of all of the people who made the shortlist, he is the worst possible choice, the worst. The other three would have been terrific, absolutely terrific, but he was the worst. And so why it is that they chose him over the other three is a mystery to me. But again, watching people pretend to be happy about it has been very, very funny. And, we've got September, October, we've got 2 months to go until the election. And I have a feeling that a lot of other stuff is going to come out about him. I don't know personally because I haven't looked into him, but it's going to get even worse. And I think that those VP debates are going to be lit. I don't like JD Vance. I used to be a huge fan of his. I think he's an asshole. And I think that he's a complete fraud, but I think that he is going to be able to call Walz on the carpet for some of the more inflammatory things that he has done and said as governor of Minnesota. So Okay, Love Life. Good to see you. Thank you. I appreciate you being here. Okay. So I'm going to fire up Pink Book Lessons. And again, her channel is linked in my description. Please sub to her. She's wonderful. I also put in the username of Negz's LiveMe channel. Please do go and follow Negz. Please do gift. Please go. Have a good time. Don't forget to tip on the way out. And we'll all be seeing each other. We can all meet up there too. So we can see each other more than once a day. How about that? All right. So let me bring up this video. And it's called Black Chicago Residents Are Fed Up, Illegals Taking Over Black Middle-Class Neighborhoods. And again, this is an actual phenomenon. It's an actual phenomenon. So let's take a look at what Pink Book Lessons has to say. And again, I cannot recommend this channel highly enough. So please do sub up to her. Let's go.
It's just been a disaster. They started off putting the immigrants over in the police station. And as they started to move them out of the police station, they stealthily started to put them in our neighborhoods. Well, the neighborhood didn't want them. The residents, the citizens, we pushed back, but the deal was already done. And so they were bringing in a lot of military-aged men into the community. I mean,
what does that sound like?
We're not stupid. We're not obtuse. We know what's going on.
Military-aged men are being brought into the neighborhood. Who does that sound like? Remember when Negz said all this multiple times and people called him a racist and said he was crazy? Well, guess what? Other people are noticing. And of course they stuck these migrants in Black neighborhoods. Of course they did. Of course they did. Because it's the middle class and the poor who will always get fucked over when these decisions are made by politicians who go against the will of the people. Let's continue.
But unfortunately, the people who run this city, they don't care what the people think.
Thank you, Coffee. Good to see you.
Quiet residential neighborhoods like Washington Park, middle-class Black neighborhoods. We're still pushing back. We don't want them here. The crime rate has gone up since they've been here. That's a fact. Nobody wants to talk about it, but we live it every day.
You heard that? She said they are putting these illegals in middle-class Black neighborhoods. See, a lot of Black people like to ignore this. They think it's only impacting poor Black folks. No, they are now placing illegals all over the place.
There you go.
Not just poor Black neighborhoods, but middle-class Black neighborhoods too. And it's not just Black people.
We all know about the migrant situation in New York City, but now New Jersey is involved. That's because a new situation in New York that's restricting buses from coming from the South with these migrants on board. They have restrictions on when they could get into the city, how they could get into the city. So what's going on is that these buses are stopping at train stations in New Jersey.
Imagine being so excited because you just bought a house in this neighborhood, a house that costs around $250,000, $300,000. And you decide to go for a walk. You go for a walk to the CVS, it's just right around the corner, and look what you run into. A bunch of white tents. Do you know what it means when you see a bunch of white tents? Those white tents right there are housing probably close to 2,000 illegal immigrants in a neighborhood right here in Chicago. How would that make you feel if they decided to put these up in your local CVS neighborhood? I think where these tents should go, these tents need to be moved on over to $1 million neighborhoods.
To the $1 million neighborhoods, where, places where, are the neighborhoods where people like Governor Pritzker live. How about that? Now, the reason I'm highlighting this for a number of reasons. First of all, because I'm sure that what the lady said at the beginning in that interview is probably something that will shock a lot of people. Here's the thing. If there is one issue that the Democrats are extremely weak on, it's illegal immigration. Because now, instead of just affecting ranchers in Arizona and Texas, the border states, now what's happening is that these migrants are being bussed all over the country, which means it is a national issue. The crime rate has soared wherever it is that these people have been sent. In New York, they are running into situations where Venezuelan gangs are committing robberies, and it doesn't help that New York has like the perfect storm where there was bail reform, which is insane. Nobody's getting arrested in New York, evidently, or they've got a catch and release program going on. And so basically, these gangs are taking over, looting businesses openly, like what's happening in California. And people are feeling the pinch. People who bought houses, who take pride in their homes, are now finding themselves in situations where they are in danger. They're in danger. And one of the videos that I'm going to be reviewing later this week is an amazing video that was done about what has happened in Santa Monica, California, of all places, one of the most beautiful parts of California, a fantastic city, a very wealthy, where the cost of doing business is extremely high because rents are so high. And if you could see the state of Santa Monica now, you would not believe it. Now, I haven't been in Santa Monica in 20 years, but when I watched the video, I could not believe my eyes. I had a similar reaction to the one I had when I saw what was happening in San Francisco. So now you're seeing it in Chicago, and I will make a full disclosure here. Chicago is one of my favorite cities in the country. I love Chicago. I love it. I was just in Chicago last year to see a concert. I get a thrill, like driving into Chicago and seeing the skyline and driving by Lake Michigan, Lakeshore Drive was a wonderful experience because I love Chicago. But now the shit is hitting the fan in Chicago. It doesn't help that they have a terrible mayor who is in the habit of passing the buck and gaslighting voters. And it also doesn't help that the governor of Illinois is a billionaire. He's a Pritzker. He comes from an extremely wealthy real estate family. So now you've got people who feel that they're not being listened to. Why do they feel that way? Because they're right. They're not being listened to. And you can't write this all off to racism. All right. The activists have tried, the media has tried, but now there are too many people from too many different socioeconomic backgrounds who are being affected. And as long as the Democrats do not confront this issue head on, this is the issue that will lose the Democrats the election. This one. So let's continue.
Politicians live. Move them right over to your neighborhood. I went to Mike Chicago's house yesterday, Brandon Johnson. I went to his house. There were no tents around his neighborhood. There was a policeman sitting outside of his house, and there were orange cones in front of his house protecting his house.
There you go.
Spilling over, impacting everybody, from legal Hispanics to other legal immigrants, Black people and white people. Shout out to Numbers USA. They spoke to Black folks in Chicago
about
to hear what they had to say about the migrant crisis and how it's destroying the Black community. We're going to get into it, but first, take a second to make sure you're subscribed to the channel.
Please do
click
subscribe.
The notification bell for all updates. Won't
subscribe
waste any time.
to
Let's go ahead
please.
And get into it.
What policies would you like to see in place that would limit the amount of people that are there?
Well, listen, there are policies on the book in Congress already. They need to enforce the laws that are already on the books. These people are here illegally. Again, they're not seeking asylum. If they were seeking asylum, they would have gone to the first country that would have granted them asylum.
Exactly.
In Mexico. What I would like to see them do, if they're here illegally, they need to go back to their country of origin. And that's immediately. We have no allegiance to these folks, okay? We don't care where they're from.
This is 100% true. We don't owe these people anything. Yet they're getting thousands of dollars in food stamps, free rent, education vouchers,
you see,
cash, loans.
Back in 2019, I purchased my first food truck. It cost me over $25,000. I paid it cash money. I worked hard to pay for this truck. I'm now selling it because I'm doing other things, but I'm selling it. I had a guy come to look at purchasing my vehicle or my food truck. And he explained to me he's an illegal immigrant. He has no credit. He has no money in the bank. But he showed me his paperwork. that he will receive funds to purchase my food truck.
There you go.
I'm thankful that he's buying it, but I'm hurt that I work so hard to pay cash for my food truck. I have good credit, can't even get a business loan because of the color of my skin. I have veterans in my family. I'm a veteran. I've been self-employed for so long. But somebody, please tell me, how do I work so hard to have somebody who comes to this country, not long, no credit, and he shows me paperwork where they'll be funding him money.
Does the Democratic platform seem to satisfy your needs as far as what you'd like to see with our immigration policy?
Well, what platform is that? They don't seem to have a platform. They seem to have open borders. Everybody can come here. Listen, people live in their homes. You have a home or you have an apartment. Do you have a front door on your home?
Yes, I do.
Do you have a back door?
Yes, I do.
Are they locked?
They're locked.
Are you locking because you're racist?
No.
You're locking because?
I'm protecting my 4 children that I have at home.
Exactly. Same thing with our borders, okay? It has nothing to do with racism. We have to protect our sovereignty.
Yeah.
We have to protect the citizens here. We have to protect our homeland. And so we have to close those borders.
Absolutely.
By any means necessary. Building a wall is an excellent idea. Look at the DNC convention. They built all kinds of walls of security. They have all kinds of police. They wanted to defund the police. They didn't want police protection.
Right.
But listen, when it comes to them, it's always hypocrisy, you know.
This system.
Okay. Here's what I want to say. That lady with the food truck, when I first saw that clip on Twitter, it broke my heart. Because I was thinking, imagine you scrimp and you save and you put together $25K and you buy a food truck, and then you see somebody coming forward who's getting free handouts, no credit, no nothing, but they can make you an offer on a food truck when they've been in the country for 5 minutes, and because they're being bankrolled. They're being bankrolled. And at some point, and I think that point is arriving very, very quickly, and I think it's going to get extremely ugly over the next few years if this is not fixed, you are going to find, I don't want to be dramatic, I don't want to call it a race war or a class war or anything like that, but if people start to get angry enough about this, it is going to be very, very unpleasant. And every single person who has spoken out in this video is absolutely right. And I am telling you, if you are in the Democratic Party and you have any position of influence whatsoever, ignoring this issue is a giant mistake. And trying to dismiss it as a right-wing issue, an issue of xenophobia or racism or whatever, is a huge mistake. Remember when Europe opened its borders, thanks to the tough iron fist of Angela Merkel, who forced all those European countries to take in migrants, to basically violate, I think it's the Ireland Accords, that says that a person who is looking for asylum needs to apply in the first free, open, and safe country that they set foot in. That is what is in the Ireland. I think it's called the Ireland Accords. I wish I had done some, basic background looking into this, but this was the argument that was being made by people when there were migrants trampling across Europe. And the criticism of the Eastern European countries like Poland that wouldn't let people in. And now Poland has taken some very extreme measures to prevent people from coming in. But you had all the boats coming in. They were coming in through Greece, through Lampedusa, through the Italian region, and the Greeks were overwhelmed. They did not have the resources to support all these people. And then these people would fan out. There was no tracking them. There were no records of them. They would just melt into the general population. The problems that happen in Scandinavia, in countries like Sweden. Sweden is connected to Denmark by a bridge. And people were walking across the bridge. And in Sweden, if you go into Sweden, I don't know how it is now, but certainly at the time, if you claimed that you were an unaccompanied minor, you would not only be taken in immediately, but you would be housed with a family, a Swedish family. And you would be put in school with kids of the age that you claim to be. So we saw the ludicrous spectacle of men with full beards sitting in like 7th grade, 8th grade classrooms or whatever the equivalent is in Sweden. It means that grown men were being housed in Swedish family homes where there were young girls present. So Europe has not managed to get this under control. Okay. And now we're seeing this in the United States. Now, we don't have that generosity the way that the European countries have in terms of letting people lie about their age and just, be housed with private families. This is, and I'm going to keep repeating this until I'm blue in the face, this is the number one issue for the Democratic Party, and nobody is confronting it in a tough and realistic way because this is what the voters care about. Let's continue.
Made a good point. If everybody's okay with open borders, how about you unlock your doors in your house, leave them wide open, put a note there for all the intruders,
IDGAF.
maybe some cookies, so next time they don't have to bust open the door or slide through your window. They can have easy access to you, your family, and everything you have.
Mm-hmm.
Even better, when they run up in your house, already have the money packed up too on the table for them.
Mm-hmm.
In a nice briefcase. Put your money in there, your credit cards. Just hand it all over to them.
Hello,
and
my
thank
darling.
them for their service. Do you see how crazy that is?
Mm-hmm.
Why is it that you get to come here? You ain't put no money on the books, no taxes, bled no wars. You've contributed nothing intellectually here. And you get to come here, you get all these resources that the average American can't. What about our homeless children?
Yep.
What about our veterans?
Our veterans, exactly.
This is the game right now. Wow. So all of those things are connected, and it starts by not giving the children the resources that they need.
Do you know how many homeless veterans you run into in Washington, D.C.? Because there are parts of Washington, D.C. that have tent cities, and it's mostly under bridges, like overpasses and stuff, or parks that are kind of, Washington's a tiny city, so it's not like you can set up these tent encampments in places that are out of the view of Washington residents. But among them, do you know how many veterans you run into? People who served their country, real ones, okay, not pretend ones, not ones who were forced to join the military, either that or jail, you know what I mean? But people who signed up, people who went to Iraq, went to Afghanistan, went overseas, risked their lives, and they are living in tents in the capital of the United States of America. It is an absolute goddamn disgrace. Veterans who can't get access to the health care they need, most importantly, the mental health care they need. Vets who have to wait for months and months to get an appointment with a mental health care provider at the VA. Those people are being neglected, but now you have these people coming in illegally and they're being handed the keys to the kingdom. You're goddamn right that people are going to get mad about that. You are goddamn right. And I wish that more people would do interviews with regular voters of all races who could then come forward and say, what is this? Why are we being cheated? Why? This is important, you guys. And thank you, Pink Book Lessons, for highlighting it.
Because you're still in the money. So you have these immigrants coming in. If you need to flee where you live, yeah, come in. But don't neglect your own children.
Yeah.
You're giving money. All of a sudden, you come up with all this money. You found all this money.
Yeah.
Right.
To throw at their needs and stuff. Our kids need a line in these bills or whatever. There needs to be a line in there
the at-risk children get the same type of accommodations, modifications, and monies needed to help them access the curriculum too, okay?
Absolutely.
Do not leave our American children out. Everybody says that the Democratic Party, has an agenda behind bringing immigrants over because they can no longer depend on the Black vote. So they're trying to replace our votes, okay?
Yes, they're yelling, cursing, screaming at us right now to support them, while supporting them is supporting our own demise. A lot of Black people are waking up and on to their game. They're trying to replace us with illegal immigrants and give them access to all the laws and money that was supposed to be for us.
Why America has all of these provisions like affirmative action and set-asides and civil rights laws. It is because of the shame and guilt about slavery and Jim Crow, both little democratic enterprises, by the way. So it all has to be spent on Black Americans, not on any loser with a grievance from around the world. And that's what it's become.
Immigration, period, is a problem and has always harmed the freedmen. Illegal immigration is crushing the whole country. Stop saying, I'm okay with the immigration.
Exactly. They've brainwashed a lot of Black Americans to go along with this diabolical plan, and even have the so-called Black elite and the boule out here trying to make us accept this foolishness too.
When you think about what's going on in the United States of America right now and in Chicago with mass immigration, what are 3 words that come to mind that for you?
Very, very angry.
Tell me more about that.
I'm going to put this at the feet of the Democratic Party, the Biden administration, because we've never seen a surge in immigration like we have seen under this administration. It's all by design. It's deliberate. The Democratic Party realizes that the Black vote is dwindling because the Democratic Party has not delivered for the Black community in the way that the Black community has delivered for the Democratic Party in terms of votes. And they realize that. So what do? What do? They go around the world and they open up these borders and they let people come from around the world, poor, vulnerable people from around the world come into this country. And it was very strategic. You let them go into cities like New York. You let them come into cities like Chicago. You let them come into cities that where there's a large Black population. Now, they're all over the city of Chicago, but the majority of them now in Chicago are on the west and the south side of Chicago. Poor neighborhoods, neighborhoods that are struggling, that have been struggling for a long, long time. So you bring these people into Hyde Park, you bring these people into South Shore, they put them in a hotel, literally right across the street from me. They're paying no rent. Their food is being provided for. They don't even make their beds. They have a maid to go and make their beds every day. How do I know? Because I live on the 25th floor and I can look right down on that hotel every day, every night, and I see what's going on. We don't want them in our community. Let them go back to where they came from, because it's my position that if you have a problem with your country, then you stay and you make it better by fighting that government, making your government do what it needs to do by its people, because that's what we do in this country. That's what I've been doing all of my life. I don't have any place to run to. America is my home. It's my country. We built it.
Yeah, Black Americans built this country. And another lie they've been running around spreading for a while now is that immigrants built this country. They're trying to change history, but no. If Black people weren't here in America going through everything they went through, then there wouldn't be a country for everybody else to immigrate to. We got to stop allowing folks, especially newcomers, to write Black people out of history. You know, earlier this week, I touched on this with both Grant Cardone and Ann Coulter, surprisingly speaking some truth that slid under the radar.
All of that was to make up for the legacy of slavery and Jim Crow. So unless these benefits are going to, roughly defined, foundational Black Americans, the descendants of American slaves, you've taken away the whole purpose of this. And that is exactly what's happened once we got this huge load of immigrants.
The American Rescue Plan and the Inflation Reduction Act that delivered nothing to this country. It was $3.2 trillion. That could have built 8 million homes, or it could have provided 48 million Black households with $300,000 in cash. But that didn't happen either.
If you missed those videos, the links are below. You definitely want to check those out after this video.
When the buses started rolling in, a lot of the American citizens, Black citizens, did not realize what they were here for. But once that they got here, they started to bring them into the Black community. And we started to do research, and that's when I found out that it was Kamala Harris that opened the borders up in California and allowed all the gangs, the Mexican gangs, to come across. And they took Compton and all the other Black cities, similar to what we're seeing across the United States today.
Yeah, they've been doing this to us. Look how they destroyed California,
Very
taking
much.
over Black communities, pushing Blacks to other states, mostly cities in Texas, but they're also moving to cities like Vegas and Atlanta. Ask yourself, why are all these Black people moving to Texas? Don't you think they would rather stay in California where they're from? What's the real reason why Blacks and a bunch of others are leaving California? Finding the answer to that question is going to lead you to what they don't want you to know, the truth. Let's go ahead and get the conversation started. Why are Black people ignoring the migrant crisis, even though they see other Black people impacted by this? Special thank you to Byron H. I appreciate you, Byron, for all of your support, as well as Stanley, Dark Power, Eric, The Wall Reports, Ramon, and Emmanuel. Don't forget that you can support this channel as well. Links to Cash App and PayPal are below. Ladies, fellas, want a balanced analysis, want the truth from a woman's perspective? Then you're going to want to subscribe to this channel, and don't forget to like and share.
Okay, that was terrific. As I said, I don't agree with everything she says. I don't agree with her analysis in some cases. I don't agree with every word that comes out of her mouth. But thank God that we have an actual content creator on YouTube. I know that it's hard, but you can find them if you work at it. I have been following her channel for quite some time, and I think she is fabulous. So, as I said, the link is in. And Anna, could you drop Negz's Rumble in there as well as the ID of his LiveMe, please? Thank you so much. Look. It's a dire period. I know that every election cycle, we hear the same thing. This is the most important election ever. We've heard it so many times. It goes in one ear and out the other. Okay. But the situation in the United States right now is unlike any other period in history, because all of these problems are self-inflicted. They're all self-inflicted. Just like in Europe, just like especially in the United Kingdom, we are seeing the biggest disconnect I have ever seen in my life between the voters and the people who are in public office. I have watched a great many videos about two-tier Keir, and yes, I call him that because that's exactly what he is. We are seeing a huge disconnect between officialdom, whether it is the politicians, the medical profession. There are a number of official institutions that the average citizen does not trust. And you cannot blame all of this on social media. Quite frankly, I am tired of that excuse. You can't blame it all on lockdown. You can't blame it all on Fauci or Twitter or whatever. The reason for this disconnect is because people who are regular average Joes feel that they are not being listened to, and they are right. They are right. And they are suffering as a result of policies that were passed, despite the voters explicitly saying, we do not want this. Now, what's happening in the UK now with the Labour Party is happening because so many people in the last election stayed home. They took a look at Rishi Sunak and the Conservatives and said, you people have done absolutely nothing to help us. You've done nothing. I'm not going to vote for that asshole. I'm not going to vote for Labour. I'm going to stay home. And the reason that Labour came in a landslide is because they were better at mobilizing the vote than the Conservatives were. It does not mean that the policies that Labour is proposing are popular. It means that so many people didn't vote that we ended up with Keir Starmer and the Labour Party in its current state. And keep in mind that Keir Starmer was brought in to run the Labour Party as Labour Party leader because his predecessor, Jeremy Corbyn, was such an extremist that the Labour Party was on the ropes. They lost their biggest landslide. They lost in one of the biggest landslides since the 1930s with Jeremy Corbyn at the helm. They got Keir Starmer, who seemed to be normal, and now he is a hostage of the most extreme elements of his own party, which is totally at odds with the voting public. This is unsustainable. It is unsustainable. It is hard to believe that the same country that was run by Winston Churchill is now run by this man. So, in the United States, bringing it back home, it is the Black community that has been up in arms over the state of San Francisco, the state of Oakland. When you have Safeway shutting down, when you have drugstores shutting down because of the rampant rate of thievery and violence, that means that those old little Black ladies with their little shopping carts who ride the bus to and from the store, who need to pray that they won't get robbed on their way to and from, are now in a position where they either have to shop at bodegas, which are much more expensive. They have to shop at local stores that are much more expensive. And meanwhile, businesses are shutting down left and right in San Francisco. And the little old ladies are the ones who are out there saying, wait a second. And the same thing is happening in Chicago. Wait a second, where the hell are we supposed to go shopping? And nobody cares. The mayor of San Francisco is asleep at the switch. The mayor of Oakland is asleep at the switch. Evidently, the mayor of Santa Monica is asleep at the switch. The mayor of Chicago is a public menace at this point with what he is doing to that city. And again, passing laws that make it harder to lock somebody up for shoplifting is not the solution. Bail reform is not the solution. Catch and release is not the solution. And everyday normal people are looking at this and saying, absolutely fucking not. The Democratic Party is in trouble with the Black community, and the Democratic Party is in big trouble with the Jewish community too. I am seeing more and more and more Jews publicly stating that they are going to vote Republican for the first time in their lives. They're going to white knuckle it in that voting booth. They're going to hold their noses the entire time because the Democratic Party is like in the blood of Jewish Americans. But I can tell you with absolutely no hesitation and no shame whatsoever, I will not be voting in November. Absolutely not. No way. First of all, I've moved from a city where the outcome is a foregone conclusion to a state where the outcome is a foregone conclusion. I don't live in a swing state, okay? But even if I did, I would not be voting in this election under any circumstances. I will never vote for Trump, and I sure as fuck am not voting for Kamala Harris, and specifically for that idiot that she put on the ticket. It's not going to happen. Couldn't be me. So, ain't going to happen. Ain't going to happen. And all this is because the politicians are listening to the most radical elements within each party, I would say, and ignoring the will of the populace at large. That is a problem. And it's sad when somebody like Tim Cotton makes more sense to me than these Democratic senators and congressmen. The cowardice is off the charts. The New York delegation is a farce, except thank God for Richie Torres. God only knows where the hell that man came from. Richie Torres is a blessing, and we must protect him at all costs. Richie Torres is the only member of the New York delegation who makes sense. And that man represents the Bronx. Imagine. So clearly he sees what's going on. And he is not giving up, and he is not bending to the whims of the other members of the delegation, or indeed to the idiots who go out and protest in the street. He's not doing it. So thank God for Richie Torres. But thank you so much to Pink Book Lessons for showing those video clips. I wish that more members of the press would go out and interview people in these neighborhoods and ask them how they're being affected, because it's important. It matters. All right. So thank you so much to everybody for being here. I appreciate all of you. Thank you so much for subscribing. If you wouldn't mind subscribing on the way out, do not forget to follow Negz on LiveMe. Please use the Cash Apps and the PayPals. Show your support. And thank you so much to everybody for being here. And I will see you guys the next time. Thanks, guys. See you next time.